Stay true to the value, explore great books worldwide. Hi there, this is Sally with the Book Talk. Today, I'm breaking down this book for you. It's the fifth volume of Harvard History of China, The Troubled Empire. The author of Yuan and Ming is B.U. Zhenmin, a big-name historian and dean of St. John's College at the University of British Columbia. He's also the editor-in-chief of this Harvard China History series. Whoa, at first glance, you might find the book title weird. Why are Yuan and Ming lumped together? Usually we pair up dynasties because they've got loads in common, like Qin Han or Sui Tang, while Ming's often teamed with Qing as Ming Qin. But this author sticks Yuan and Ming together, even though they're totally opposite dynasties, right? In 1271 AD, Kublai Khan founded the Yuan Dynasty. By 1279, Yuan forces crushed the Song dynasty at the Battle of Yashan. From then on, Yuan became the first unified dynasty in Chinese history set up by a minority group. But hey, Yuan only lasted about 90 plus years. In 1368, Zhu Yuanzhang started the Ming Dynasty and right away launched a northern expedition to push the Mongol rulers back north. The Yuan dynasty fell. During that expedition, Zhu Yuanzhang shouted, "Expel the barbarians, restore China," to fire up Han folks' national pride. After winning, the Ming government hailed it as a heroic overthrow of foreign rule and worked hard to wipe out Yuan traces. For instance, the character Wan used to be written as Jin. That's the Yuan from the dynasty. Min rulers thought that was taboo, so they changed it to Run, like original or plateau. From this little detail, you can tell Ming rulers wanted a clean break from Yuan, claiming they fixed Mongol damage to Chinese civilization and restored the true heritage. This shaped later history big time. But the author, Bu Jiangmin, doesn't buy that. He points out that Ming did overthrow Mongol rule, but also took on their legacy and kept it going for centuries. In other words, there's strong continuity between Yuan and Ming. They shared tons of similarities in ecology, politics, economy, culture, you name it. Bu Jiangmin reveals this oddball phenomenon with lively writing. All right, next up, I'll dive into the book's main content for you. My talk is split into 3 parts. Part 1. Similar ecological settings made Yuan and Ming rulers face the same crises. Part 2. Ming inherited Yuan's legacy and territory and systems. Part 3. Yuan and Ming show clear continuity in foreign policy approaches. All right, let's kick off Part 1. Similar ecological environments meant Yuan and Ming rulers faced the same crises. While studying Yuan and Ming historical records, the author B.U. Zhenmin uncovered a bizarre phenomenon. Both dynasties' documents recorded numerous dragon sightings. So what are dragon sightings? That is, the legendary dragons making appearances in the human world. In ancient times, dragons were generally seen as noble and auspicious in China. They symbolized imperial power, and emperors were called true dragon sons of heaven. Yet, in Yuan and Ming records, dragons often brought bad news. Like in the 5th year of Emperor Shun of Yuan's reign, an evil dragon attacked Fujian, flattening 800 homes and destroying 1,300 hectares of farmland. 10 years later, 5 dragons appeared in Jiangnan, sucking seawater and spraying it as rain. Late in Emperor Chengzu of Ming's reign, a dragon descended on Beijing, followed by a plague outbreak. During Emperor Jiajing's reign, dragons became even more unruly. They spewed hot air in Suzhou, burning down homes. At West Lake in Hangzhou, they stirred up storms, toppled an iron tower, capsized boats, and riddled the temple with holes. Whoa. In the 16th year of Emperor Chongzhen's reign, 1064-3, 2 dragons appeared over the capital, seen as an ill omen. Sure enough, the following spring, the Ming Dynasty fell. Modern folks might scoff at these records. Science tells us dragons don't exist. But let's think differently. All those dragon sightings in Yuan and Ming times, does it mean people back then actually encountered something? What could it be? The answer is ecological disasters caused by extreme weather. Yuan and Ming dynasties happened to be in the Little Ice Age, with temperatures dropping sharply. From Yuan's founding in 1268 to Ming's fall in 1644, over 376 years, average temperatures were way below normal. At its coldest, temps hit lows not seen in 200 years, 400 years, even 1,000 years. Not only did the north get colder, but the south was also hit by cold waves. In the fourth year of Emperor Jingtai of Ming, early 1453, heavy snow blanketed from Shandong to Jiangxi. According to the Ministry of Revenue, the lower Yangtze suffered heavy losses. In Changshu County alone, 1,800 people froze to death. Keep in mind, Changshu has a mild climate, famed as a blessed land of Jiangman. If even it got this cold, imagine elsewhere. Worse, the bitter cold lasted 3 years. The Yangtze Delta had snow a meter deep. Seawater froze. Taihu Lake froze. Ships halted all routes, and masses of livestock froze to death. It's just one of the bad consequences of the Little Ice Age. Others include droughts, floods, locust plagues, earthquakes, and more. For example, in the last 100 years of the Ming Dynasty, the climate was dry, floods happened often, earthquakes and locust plagues also popped up now and then. It was totally overwhelming. To borrow the book's title, Yuan and Ming were indeed empires struggling in extreme climates. So, what Yuan and Ming dynasties faced was extreme climate, but ancient folks couldn't wrap their heads around it. Plus, in extreme weather, people get illusions easily, so they blamed it all on dragon sightings like it was evil dragons causing trouble. Frequent dragon sightings posed a serious threat to the ruler's legitimacy. This is because ancient China was a typical farming society, and crop production depended heavily on climate. Yuan and Ming records show extreme weather turned vast lands barren. And now, locusts swarmed the skies, livestock died in droves, poor harvest became the norm, famine and plagues killed many, survivors had to beg or even rebel to survive. So Yuan and Ming societies were always unstable, which made ruling tough. And according to the harmony of heaven and man idea, disasters link directly to the emperor's bad deeds or blunders, so frequent calamities imply he's a tyrant or fool. Huh? That gave rebels a reason to overthrow the dynasty and start fresh. If mishandled, it could crush imperial power, but it felt beyond human control. The fates of Yuan and Ming's last emperors clearly show this problem. First, let's check out the last emperor of the Yuan dynasty. At the start of his rule, Emperor Shun of Yuan was diligent, pushed reforms, and brought a fresh vibe to the whole realm. Sadly, it didn't last. From year 2, 1342, floods erupted widely. The Yellow River burst its banks, displacing masses. Then droughts and plagues hit, worsening misery. Desperate peasants rebelled. Zhu Yuanzhang, the Ming founder, lost all his kin to droughts, locust plagues, and famine. To scrape by, he joined the peasant army and ended up toppling the Yuan dynasty. Now, let's cover the Ming's last emperor, Chunjin. He took the throne at 17, crushed the eunuch faction led by Wei Zhongjian with swift action. Showing a young ruler's smarts and resolve, it seemed the dying Ming dynasty could bounce back. But during Chungjin's reign, disasters never stopped. Right after he became emperor, droughts and locust plagues hit the northwest. The whole of Shanxi had zero harvest. Starving folks dug up wild grass to eat, and when that ran out, cannibalism tragedies occurred. But the imperial court not only didn't provide relief, they doubled down on grain taxes. With no way out, peasants rebelled for survival. Among them were two forces that later destroyed the Ming dynasty. Li Zicheng and Zhang Shangzheng. The rebel armies grew stronger daily. In Chongjin's 6th year, rebel forces spread to Shanxi, Anhui, Jiangxi, and beyond. In Chongzhen's 8th year, Zhang Shanzhang captured Fingyang and burned the ancestral tombs of Min founder Zhu Yuanzhang, shocking the whole nation. In Chongzhen's 10th year, Minister of War Yang Xicheng proposed a 10-sided net strategy. deploying elites to crush rebels with stunning success. Rebel forces either scattered or surrendered. Ming victory seemed certain. But alas, heaven turned cruel. 7 years of nationwide drought followed, famine everywhere, plagues leaving villages empty. People rebelled again, rebels resurged, and Ming forces were helpless. In Chongzhen's 17th year, 1644 AD, temperatures plunged to 400-year lows. That same year, Li Zicheng's rebels captured Beijing. The Chongzhen emperor killed himself. Ming fell. Qing armies swept through China, becoming new rulers. By traditional standards, both last emperors were diligent. They tried reviving their dynasties, but heaven sabotaged them, dooming them to tragedy. Of course, the author notes, extreme climate caused hardship, but dynasties fell from multiple factors. Can't just blame weather. For example, Yuan's downfall started with Kublai Khan himself, a brilliant ruler. But in old age, he appointed corrupt ministers, indulged in wine and women, and wrecked governance. After Kublai died, succession chaos followed. Emperor Yingzong assassinated, Emperor Mingzong poisoned. Politics turned toxic, corruption festered. By Emperor Shun's reign, the rot ran deep.
Ming was similar. From mid-dynasty, court corruption worsened.
Emperor Jiajing obsessed over alchemy in old age. Emperor Wanli skipped court for decades. At the Battle of Sarhu, 100,000 Ming troops perished, ending their offensive power. Emperor Tianji reigned for 7 years. Domestically, he appointed Wei Zhongxian, causing fierce court conflicts. Externally, he lost vast territories in Liaodong, leaving only fortresses like Shanhai Pass barely holding back the later Jin. So despite Emperor Chongzhen's diligent governance, the Ming dynasty was beyond saving. Plus his stubbornness led to 50 chief grand secretaries changing in 17 years. This caused political chaos, ending in his suicide. A tragedy shaped by both era and personality. Okay, so part 1 shows how shared ecological environments made Yuan and Ming face identical governance crises. Part 2 explains how Ming inherited Yuan's legacy in territory and institutions. First, territory and local administration. Yuan was massive, spanning 13.72 million square kilometers at its peak, larger than Tang before it and Qing after, making it China's biggest dynasty. Ming couldn't match this scale. From mid-Ming, the northeast gradually fell to later Jin, later the Qing dynasty. In the northwest, Mongol raids limited Ming to defending Jiayu Pass. Beyond that was out of reach. Ming's inheritance from Yuan lies not in territory size, but in territorial unity. How to understand this? After Tang's fall, China fragmented. Song unified the Central Plains, but not the whole nation. To the north, Song confronted Liao and Jin dynasties. Northwest had Western Jia, southwest was Dali. None could destroy the others. Without external forces, fragmentation might have lasted centuries. Then Mongols swept East Asia, annihilating Jin, Western Jia, Dali, and Southern Song. A key outcome was reintegrating these regions. Initially, Mongols missed this significance, until Kublai Khan's Han Chinese advisors told him. According to Confucianism, unifying China was monumental. This justified Mongol rule. So Kublai Khan recast himself as China's great unifier.
Yuan became the first unified dynasty since Han Tang. Ming at its peak covered Song, Jin, Western Asia, and Dali lands.
Thus, Ming took over Yuan's foundation. In other words, Ming inherited Yuan's base, not Song's. What Ming inherited from Yuan wasn't just territory, but local administrative systems too. Yuan rulers divided former Jin and Song territories into 9 administrative units under the province system. The core was the Central Secretariat, Beijing and surrounding areas, with 8 other provinces. Provinces included Henan Province, Sichuan Province, Zhejiang Province, etc. In its founding years, Ming continued the province system, only abolishing it. In Hongwu's 9th year, Zhu Yuanzhang divided the nation into 15 units, collectively called 2 capitals and 13 provincial administration commissions. Win, Maiyan, the 2 capitals meant Beijing and Nanjing. The 13 commissions included Shanxi, Henan, Zhejiang, Guangdong, equivalent to provincial units. This was just reshuffling, refining the province system without real change. For example, Zhangji province was split into Zhejiang, Fujian, and Jiangxi. Another province was divided into Jiangxi and Guangdong to weaken local power and strengthen central control. Though the province system ended, people still called these units provinces out of habit. In early Qing Emperor Kangqi's reign, the commissions were renamed provinces. To this day, provinces remain China's top local administrative units, a foundation laid by Ming. Additionally, Yuan established pacification commissions governing southwestern ethnic regions, spreading Central Plains culture to remote Guizhou, and the Bureau of Buddhist and Tibetan Affairs administering Tibet and national Buddhism, formally integrating Tibet into China. Ming inherited these systems. Next, let's explore Yuan's influence on Ming's political institutions. Historians often label ancient China's systems autocratic, but the degree varied across dynasties and emperors. In Han and Tang, powerful clans constrained emperors. Song increased imperial centralization but prioritized civil over military affairs, elevating scholar officials, captured in a telling ruler-minister dialogue. Scholar officials fiercely opposed Anshi's reforms. Emperor Shenzong argued reforms hurt scholar officials but helped commoners. Scholar leader Wen Yanbo retorted, "Your Majesty, you rule with scholar officials, not common people." Meaning emperors had to accommodate elites, not act freely. Compared to Song, Min emperors held far greater power. Take law. In Hongwu's 6th year, Zhu Yuanzhang enacted the Great Ming Code, much harsher than predecessors, even for treason. Tang Hua beheaded offenders and strangled sons over 16. The Ming Code intensified penalties. Traitors faced death by 1,000 cuts. Their grandfathers, fathers, descendants, and even relatives living together, all those aged 16 and above, were beheaded. The Great Ming Code also minutely regulated daily life. Clothing, travel, trade, marriage, all bound by law. Zhu Yuanzhang personally compiled case studies into a volume. In Hongwu's 18th year, he issued the Grand Pronouncements, a term from the Book of Documents, echoing the Duke of Zhou's admonitions to subjects. Zhu Yuanzhang's intent was clear. Use these cases to show subjects the red lines. The Grand Pronouncements were merciless. Officials slandering state affairs or forming cliques were punished. Commoners refusing grain taxes were punished. Even scholars declining official posts were guilty. This was no joke. 2 Confucian scholars in Suzhou refused posts, agreeing with local officials to study as recluses, but were reported, beheaded, their homes confiscated. The officials were executed. Zhu Yuanzhang's logic was simple. Refusing imperial service equaled rebellion, worthy of death. Thus, the Grand Pronouncements aimed to control subjects into absolute submission to imperial power. Naturally, the emperor himself was exempt. Throughout Ming, only Zhu Yuanzhang could convict under the Grand Pronouncements, placing emperors above the law. Emperor Chengzu Zudi took this further. After overthrowing the Jianwen emperor, Zhu Di ordered Minister Fang Xiaoru to draft his accession edict and was refused. Zhu Di threatened, "Refuse and I'll execute your 9 clans." Fang Xiaoru retorted, "Even 10 clans won't frighten me." Enraged, Zhu Di included Fang's friends and students, making 10 clans, and slaughtered them all. This wasn't in the Great Ming Code or Grand Pronouncements, purely Zhu Di's invention. Law was merely the emperor's tool for arbitrary rule. Thus, Ming subjects could only obey or face violence.
When Emperor Jia Jing clashed with officials, hundreds knelt outside the Forbidden City demanding he retract in order.
Furious, Jia Jing ordered flogging, beating them with clubs, killing 16 on the spot. The Grand Secretary of the time, Yang Tinghei's son, was flayed until flesh split, then exiled. Such imperial treatment of officials was unthinkable in Tong-Song eras. How did history reach this point? Scholars often analyze this through imperial power's evolution or Ming emperors' personalities. Valid perspectives. But Yuan Dynasty's influence might be more direct. Remember one key term: master-slave relationships. Confucianism emphasizes rulers' superiority over ministers, but it's not slavery. Mencius proposed, the people are most important, the state next, the ruler least, putting people first, ruler last. He even said subjects could kill tyrants. This people-centered philosophy runs deep. So Tangsung ministers had some personal freedom. Mencius still dared challenge emperors. Yuan rulers came from Mongol steppes. Their political view, subjects were the Khan's slaves. Ruler-minister relations meant master-slave relations. Even the Khan's brothers or sons, everything they owned belonged to the Khan. For example, under Ogadai Khan, a Mongol tribe panicked over rumors he'd take their daughters. People rushed to marry them off. When Ogadai found out, he made it real, gathered unmarried or newlywed girls, some for his harem, others given to subordinates. The girls' families watched, not daring to breathe. Ugadai showed the Khan's absolute control. Yuan carried this tradition. A Yuan proverb, all under heaven are the emperor's Cherigen, meaning Cherigen is Mongolian for private property, meaning everyone's the emperor's slave. European missionaries observed, Yuan emperors had total control, could seize subjects' land, property, even lives at will. Ming rulers claimed they'd overthrown foreign rule and restored Chinese legitimacy. Actually, they were deeply influenced by Yuan, treating subjects as slaves, demanding total obedience. Song scholar officers could say, "We rule with the emperor," in Ming, that thought meant suicide. This explains why Zhu Yuanzhang massacred his Gunchem, meritorious officials. In Hongwu's 13th year, Zhu executed Chancellor Hu Weiyang for treason, implicating 30,000 plus people, spreading terror. The case's essence as master, the emperor demanded absolute power over slaves. After Hu's case, Zhu abolished the 2,000-year-old chancellor system, centralizing all power.
Later, Zhu created the Grand Secretariat, just an advisory body, far weaker than chancellors.
Thus, Chinese autocracy peaked in Ming. Emperors practiced total personal dictatorship, inseparable from ruler-slave relations. All right, we've covered the continuity between Yuan and Ming, and climate, environment, and political systems. So, in another key area of state affairs, foreign relations, what did Ming inherit from Yuan? That's what Part 3 will address. First off, like the Tang Dynasty, Yuan rulers had an open and inclusive mindset. Thus, throughout the Yuan era, China foreign transportation flowed smoothly, and trade flourished.
2 points stand out. First, restoring Eurasian trade routes.
Since the Han Dynasty, China connected with the Middle East and Europe via Central Asia, forming a trans-Eurasian trade corridor. Also a cultural channel bringing lifestyle-changing items like beds, chairs, wine, etc. After the An-Lushan Rebellion, this route got blocked, halting China-West exchanges. After founding the Yuan Dynasty, Kublai Khan worked to restore Eurasia links. He built post roads, stationed troops, and maintained security. Encouraged by Yuan rulers, merchants from Central Asia, Arabia, Europe, even Africa, brought jewelry, jade, ivory, spices to trade in China. They also shipped Chinese silk, porcelain, and tea back home, making East Asia-Europe routes unprecedentedly accessible. This is evident from Italian traveler Marco Polo's journey to China. In 1271, 17-year-old Marco Polo followed his father and uncle to China. Departing Venice, they passed through modern Turkey, Iran, Central Asia into Xinjiang, then traversed Hexi Corridor, the Ningxia, to Chengdu, now Inner Mongolia's Zhenglan Banner. The journey was smooth, showing Yuan's effective safeguarding of Eurasian routes. Sadly, by Ming times, due to various factors, this route gradually fell into disuse. What Ming inherited was another legacy from Yuan. After defeating the Southern Song, Kublai Khan tried conquering Japan but failed. Yuan forces also failed in Southeast Asia. Setbacks. Military failures made Kublai Khan shift strategy, from conquest to trade expansion. In 1277 AD, Yuan established maritime trade supervisораtes in Hangzhou, Quanzhou, etc., functioning like customs offices managing overseas trade. Quanzhou had been a major port since Tang Song times, hosting many foreign merchant ships. By Yuan, Quanzhou port grew into Southeast Asia's trade hub, with ships sailing to various southern nations. Today, major Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore all established connections with China. This was China's first close engagement with Southeast Asian states, profoundly impacting later history. In Yongle III, 1405 AD, Xing He, commissioned by Emperor Chengzu Zudi, led a fleet overseas, historically called Xing He's maritime expeditions. Over nearly 30 years, Zheng He sailed 7 times across the western seas, visiting Southeast Asia and Indian Ocean nations, reaching East Africa. This was ancient China's largest and longest maritime voyage. It predated Europe's age of discovery. Zheng He's expeditions were monumental, but built on Yuan foundations. For example, Zheng He's treasure ships measured 148 meters long, 60 meters wide, with 12 sails, the world's largest wooden vessels. China's shipbuilding technology advanced dramatically during Song Yuan periods. Zheng He's routes followed Yuan merchant shipping lanes, easing resupply. Truly, without Yuan's groundwork, Zheng He couldn't have achieved such glory. Yuan's actions unexpectedly affected Ming commoners too. How so? As mentioned, Yuan Ming were in the Little Ice Age. Extreme climate slashed harvests. In mountainous, crowded Fujian and Guangdong, disasters hit hardest, driving masses to flee to Southeast Asia. Chinese migration to Southeast Asia began in Yuan. Early Ming's maritime bans worsened survival struggles. Bans fluctuated until abolished in 1567 under Emperor Muzong's Longqing era, called the Longqing Opening. Then private overseas trade became legal. Fujian, Guangdong people surged to Southeast Asia, trade revived, Chinese communities flourished. Their quick integration owed much to Yuan-era Chinese settlers already active there. Meanwhile, with the Age of Discovery, Portugal entered Southeast Asia mid-16th century. Spain, colonizing America, crossed the Pacific to the Philippines. 2 distant Eurasian civilizations thus first directly encountered European colonizers in Southeast Asia. On one hand, they brought bloodshed, using violence and massacres against Chinese to dominate Southeast Asian markets. On the other hand, they also brought goods from Europe and the Americas, turning Southeast Asia into a hub for global products, what the book's author calls the South China Sea world economy. Wow. This was the embryo of early globalization, which in turn impacted Ming China internally. We can discuss this from economic and cultural angles. First, economics. Spaniards mined massive silver in their American colonies, brought it to Southeast Asia to trade with Chinese. They exchanged silver for Chinese silk, porcelain, tea, sugar. This trade lasted centuries, flooding China with silver. Statistics show late Ming held 1/3 of global silver production. It became a silver empire. Huge silver reserves boosted industry and commerce, letting merchants invest heavily. Already wealthy, Jiangnan naturally attracted vast capital. Textiles in Songjiang, ceramics in Jingdezhen, papermaking in Jiangsu Zhejiang boomed, fueling commodity economy. Now, culture. Beyond explorers and merchants, another group sailed from Europe during the Age of Discovery: missionaries. They traveled on merchant ships worldwide. For China, the key figure was Matteo Ricci, a Christian missionary. A Jesuit born in Italy, he settled in China in 1583 until his death in 1610, spending 27 years there. As a missionary, Ricci wasn't very successful. His main contribution was introducing Western scientific knowledge to China. Ricci translated over 150 Western books in his lifetime. With Wu Guangqi, he co-translated Euclid's Elements. Their math terms like point, line, plane, triangle, polygon remain standard today. And when you look at the planned elements, no poetry new world is figured out. His Kunyu Wangu Kwantu was China's first world map, still preserved today. Sadly, Ricci's scientific knowledge only circulated among some scholar officials, never influencing mainstream thought. One incident perfectly illustrates how Ming received these new ideas.
Xu Guangqi learned Western military tactics from Ricci. and urged the court to adopt them. But conservative scholar officials fiercely opposed it, killing the proposal.
With Ming's fall, China missed its chance, an opportunity to transform the nation's fate through modern science. All right, that concludes Volume 5 of Harvard History of China, The Troubled Empire, Yuan and Ming. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.